Oh boy, what's up, Dragon Brood? So, if you haven't been under a rock and you've been on social media, you saw the announcement from Wizards of the Coast they put out yesterday that they will be increasing prices on several booster products. So, this did not go well with the community, but partially because I think they kind of messed up the timing of the announcement. Like, putting out your announcement the same time you put out your earnings report and you did pretty well seems kind of silly. So, just communications. Somebody in the PR department probably should have figured that out a little better. But that being said, we're going to talk about this, what it means, how I feel about it, and honestly, I'm just going to brace y'all for it. Today, I think I'm going to be the bad guy. All right, first things first, let's talk about the specifics of this announcement and what it means. So, hopping into their announcement from yesterday, they basically worded it as such. It says, we've worked hard to keep draft boosters and later set boosters and collector boosters at a relatively consistent price across all of our premier sets, the four major yearly releases that affect the standard format, for as long as we were able. However, the price to produce Magic the Gathering has increased significantly, and we've especially seen an uptick in the cost to produce, manufacture, and ship Magic around the world in the past year. We've kept the scope of the price increase as narrow as possible and will only be adjusting the prices on the following premier set, Unfinity, and Jumpstart products. And then they include draft boosters, set boosters, collector boosters, bundles, and Jumpstart boosters. That's actually okay, but continuing it on, they say Commander decks, meanwhile, have a price increase going into effect with Street to New Capenna, but there will be no further price increases after July. Each of these products will increase by slightly different percentages, which we estimate will approximately be 11% across the products that are seeing an increase, allowing for regional variation. These increases will also not affect other product lines like Masters, Modern Horizons, Secret Lair, Challenger decks, and Universes Beyond. Additionally, even for Premier sets, we currently don't have plans for changing prices on pre-release packs. The price increase will affect Dominaria United, which is the next standard set, as well as any backlist products starting in July. This means anything that you could still order from their current warehouses will have an increase in price, though it does mean that if you're savvy and you're a retail store or whatever, you go ahead and stock up on your backlist stuff now before the price gets higher and you can save a few bucks. So there's that. So thanks for the warning. I think that part's good. You give people time to prep and you have a couple months before it goes into effect. So that part's all good. So what's my take on this? Honestly, it's tough, right? Because I've been on the business side of things. I still do stuff for myself, obviously for business, and costs do matter. And we all know that cost on everything has gone up post-pandemic or in the middle of the pandemic, however you want to word that. Plus, what's going on with the war in Russia, and then China was on a big building run, so that actually made metals and wood more expensive, and so tons and tons of stuff across the world is getting expensive. And unfortunately, that does include our hobbies are going to be expensive as well. Now, I'm not saying that I like the idea that Wizards are increasing stuff. Obviously, we want the price to stay lower so it's more accessible to more people. That's a good thing for all of us. However, we've also seen during the pandemic that the price of even just singles, not even boosters, but even singles, has continued to go up and up and up. Things aren't slowing down and things aren't getting cheaper, and people aren't selling off their collections en masse. So I don't think this is going to have a grand effect on everything. But it does have bad optics whenever you put out an announcement about how well you did and then say, we got to increase the price. I do want to discuss something particular that we have people saying, well, Wizards are showing record profits and then they needed to increase the price. And that's not totally true. I mean, people are using the word profits to also be synonymous with margins and with revenue. And these are not the same. These are three very different terms that we have to understand to dive deeper into this announcement. So let's take a look at the chart that they presented with their quarterly reports. So here we can see Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming segment because this is how it's classified within Hasbro. It shows the revenue growth in Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, and Duel Masters. Tabletop revenue was up 10%, digital and licensed game revenue up 6%. Growth in Magic the Gathering and Dark Alliance, which is D&D stuff, And then they show an operating profit that declined slightly due to higher development, administrative expenses, and support of digital gaming initiatives, partially offset by decreased advertising and promotion in the quarter. So, what this means is that they spent more money to try to develop their digital assets, but also lost money overall. Not necessarily lost money, but made less than they made before. And then they also reduced some of their advertising and promotions, likely during the pandemic, because there's probably some things they would normally spend money on that they weren't, to also try to save some money to make that number look better. Now, let's look at the charts again. If you look at the net revenue from 2021 versus 2022, it does show that they increased overall dollars sold, which is what revenue is, by 9%, $263 to $242. However, when you look at the operating profit, $110, these are in millions, but like 110 to 106. This means that though they made more sales, more actual dollars came into the company, the actual amount they got to keep in their pocket per dollar actually decreased 3%. So when people are walking around saying that, well, they had record profits, blah, blah, no, they had record revenue, not record profits. Those are different things. And again, I'm not saying here to be an apologist for Wizards or whatever, but let's be smarter and educated about how we talk about things and about discussions and apply this to other discussions in your life so you can understand how different terms and the gravity of things work. But I also set up something into a spreadsheet so we can kind of talk about this and give it a different picture for you to make it make a little more sense. All right, so let's dive into this just a little bit. So I set up 3 different things here so we can kind of explain the math on how and why this works. And I'm using simple numbers so the concept just makes more sense. But let's say whatever it is we are trying to sell is $100, and then our cost on that item is $70. So it means we're going to make $30 for every one of these we sell, right? So going down this first example, we sell 100 units. And we'll say that's a standard year or whatever for our sales, right? 100 seems fine. So our total revenue is basically $100 times 100 units sold. That gives us $10,000. But we didn't make $10,000. We sold $10,000. Our profit is only $3,000. So that means you divide your profit by your revenue, and that gives us a 30% margin. Okay, easy enough. But then let's say for whatever reason, our costs go up. Whether we're paying more employees, whether we're, in Wizards of the Coast case, cost of goods, shipping, whatever. So it now costs us $85 to sell that same thing at $100. Well, let's say even if the year was good and we increase our total units sold by 20%. We now sold 120 units and made $12,000. Seems awesome. We can say, hey, we now have a new high watermark for revenue. But then if you look at our profits, they're only $1,800 where previously we were making $3,000. And then it also means our margins are now only 15%, not 30%. So though we sold more things and we made more dollars, we actually didn't make more money. And then this can still apply when you're talking about having that same $100 item with the same $85 cost. You now, let's say we had to double our sales to get back to our regular number. So we sold twice as many units, meaning you probably did twice as much work, twice as much shipping, everything else, to get to $20,000 in revenue to get that same $3,000 in profit because our margin was still only 15%. So going in and even doing as simple as increasing this, let's say we increase this 20%, so now we're selling the item for 120, magically all your numbers become outstandingly better. You now get where you have $24,000 in revenue, but you're able to show $7,000 in profit, and your margin is almost back to that 30%. So this is the whole thing on increasing prices, is not just to, hey, we need to put more money in our pocket so we can show record sales. It's also the amount of actual money you're making as a company and increasing. Now, of course, this includes a bunch of other stuff with like shareholders and laws where you have to try to make more profits to make the shareholders happy. And that's a whole other problem. And unfortunately, we're stuck in that capitalistic segment that we can't actually do anything about right now. So that part sucks. Now, what do I think this means for the game going forward? Not much. Like I said, if you look around, people have been spending more on Magic anyway, and we've had people that got upset considering the fact that the price has not increased since 2006. We've been saying, or at least I have been, every conversation I've had with people, that I'm surprised it took this long for a price increase. I mean, you're talking over 15 years that we've had booster packs at the same price. And we've basically been supplementing the price of booster pack with Wizards having other things, whether they're premier premium boosters, weird special sets, uh, secret layers, where all those things have been keeping the profits good for Wizards and they haven't had to increase the booster prices. And when you see it on other games, because people say, well, what about Yu-Gi-Oh! And what about Pokemon? And well, they're also using those as advertising vehicles and they're doing a ton of other things that supplement those. Because remember, they have video games, they have, hell, action figures, all types of merchandising and licensing deals. Like, you name it, right? It's a whole different ball game for what they're doing. Now, they will likely also see a price increase in the coming weeks. And I will say this, behind the scenes, things you don't see is the price on all these things has gone up to local game stores anyway, little by little over the years. You just haven't seen it as far as the, what we'll put in quotes, retail price, since there's technically not a retail price for Magic anymore, but it just hasn't been pushed on to the consumer. This will probably be the first time we actually see it as players on the receiving end. So anyway, that's just kind of a thing to give you the news, educate people, kind of give you an idea of different between like margins, profits, and revenue. Overall, it's a tough one, right? Because you never like seeing the price go up on things that you appreciate or part of. So that kind of sucks. But the other side of that is I kind of get it. It's been 15 years since we've had any price increase. This is basically going to move the price of a booster from $4 to $4.50, which isn't the end of the world. Actually, I guess $4.45, something like that. Not even a full $4.50. But it does make a difference if you're in the, let's call it, yeah, like if let's say you're in South America, right, where a US dollar is worth a lot of local dollars. Well, even increasing half a dollar is a significant increase in those countries. So that's something to consider as well. And that's going to be something regionally they will figure out how to navigate. All I can do is speak from what I have to deal with. And honestly, I don't see, the price of a box going up. Let's say you get a discount buying a box, so the price goes up like $10, $12. Like, is that going to stop people from buying booster boxes? Probably not. I mean, you're probably still going to sell what you're going to sell. There's also going to be people coming in, so more drafts probably happen. Price of drafts probably goes up $1 or $2 for everybody, so that's a little bit of a pain. But unfortunately, I think we're feeling this across the board and everything. And, not going to sympathize with Wizards here and say, like, hey, thanks for waiting 15 years. I mean, we never want the price to go up. But unfortunately, that's kind of what we're into. But I can't say it's really unsurprising or a bad thing. It just is what it is. Anyway, like, subscribe. Let me know how you feel in the comments. How is this going to affect you? If you're from another country and this is going to have a huge impact, I'd love to hear about it because there's a lot of things I'm not going to know not being in other markets. But anyway, that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.